What's up, guys? Welcome to my channel, Heel Flip. My name is Joe. I am here to teach you how to take your power back from that chronic illness, those chronic symptoms, flip the script on your healing journey, and become empowered on your healing journey. In this video, specifically, I want to talk about a disturbing symptom and thing that I dealt with on my healing journey and how I overcame it. Because I get a lot of questions about this specifically, and it's kind of not a talked about symptom a lot in the chronic illness world or even like the anxiety, depression, depersonalization world, and that is anhedonia. If you don't know what anhedonia is, I'm going to explain that briefly, explain how I kind of experienced it and how I healed from it. So, on my journey, I dealt with anxiety, depression, depersonalization, derealization, feeling numb, feeling all of these uncomfortable symptoms and sensations. I had hundreds of symptoms with my chronic illness, chronic Lyme disease. But one of the symptoms that I dealt with, which was the most disturbing and dark places I'd ever been, was something called anhedonia. If you don't know what that is, it's kind of a sort of a severe form of depression. It often comes with people who have clinical depression, anxiety, depersonalization, derealization, and while it kind of fits in with all that, it's a bit different. So, what anhedonia is basically the lack of ability to feel any positive emotions at all. Nothing. And often it comes with feeling numb in general in life. I explain it as like you're living life without the lens of an emotional experience. Everything is dull, lifeless, flat. Like everything is just like, what's the point? There's no point to life. Everything sucks. Like you have no desire to do meaningless activities. It's like, why even eat or shower or like anything like that? And if used to get some joy, even from listening to a music, it's like that's gone. Everything is dark. I experienced this, for months, and it was a dark place. Like, this is where I was in some of my darkest moments with this symptom. It was like, wow, I slipped into another dimension. Not only was I dealing with that, but I was dealing with depersonalization, derealization. So I literally felt like I was on another planet and I could not feel emotions. This was in my journey when I was very, very sick, and I was dealing with hundreds of symptoms. So it was like the worst of the worst. But specifically for this video, I want to talk about anhedonia and what actually helped me heal from it, which also led to helping me heal from the other things like depersonalization, anxiety, and my chronic illness. In this journey, I was searching for answers. I was Googling anhedonia and like what I was experiencing, because it felt like, man, I don't know that anyone else has ever experienced this. And I came across it, and other people have dealt with it. And, most people that deal with it, they weren't able to resolve it using antidepressants or anything like that. And antidepressants didn't work for me at all. I didn't resonate with them. And whenever I tried to take them, it just made things worse. So I couldn't do it that way. I was trying supplements and things like that. Didn't really work. And I was kind of sitting around waiting to feel better. At the time when I had it at my worst, I was working, but it was pure hell. Like I just tried to get through the day. I was working as a graphic designer. I couldn't feel any good positive emotions really at all. And, I couldn't do anything. Like all my day was like, just go to work, come home. That's it. I felt so awful. And I would try to go for walks, or I would try to do things to drum up those positive feelings. And it was just nothing worked. And then I came across some books and some stories on overcoming anhedonia using approach, which I've talked about on this channel before, called acceptance and commitment therapy techniques. You don't need to see a therapist. I didn't see a therapist. I was seeing therapists at the time, but I did not learn this from a therapist at all. This came from me reading books and wanting to find relief. And I came across this method um, from just reading online forums and then reading success stories of overcoming this. especially with people with dealing with like depersonalization, depression, and anxiety. And so I thought, well, what the hell? What do I have to lose? I'll give it a try. So basically, and I've talked about this before, acceptance and commitment therapy is an approach where you practice radical acceptance of where you're at. It doesn't mean you like it, doesn't mean you love it, doesn't mean you or even necessarily need to tolerate it, but you need to accept where you are in the moment. That there is not a light switch that you can flip and just automatically feel better. Trust me, I tried that. It did not work. So it's like settling in, like this is how it is right now, and getting real with that. And it's hard. This is a hard part of it. And being like, okay, this is where I'm at. It doesn't mean this is where I'm going to stay, but this is where I'm at. Now, the second part of commitment therapy, acceptance commitment therapy is the commitment piece. It is basically starting to do things anyway. So, in acceptance and commitment therapy, and again, like I said, you don't need to see a therapist. I did this on my own. You can read books. You can take this, what I'm talking about right now, and start doing it today. Um, Accepting where you are, and then start taking committed action on your goals and your values, regardless of how you feel. And a lot of people struggle with this, but I needed something that could help because nothing else was helping. So at the time, like I said, I was working, but I wasn't doing anything else. So it was like, okay, well, I used to love skateboarding. I used to love, cars. I didn't feel like doing it. I would just go and do it anyway. And at the beginning, I didn't feel much out of it, right? So I would do these things and then things would kind of shift a little bit, right? And then I started implementing like more things in my day to day that helped me pull me out of my house, going on walks, going to the gym, going and seeing friends, even if it was a short time, because this is what people told me to do. This is what I read, like acceptance and commitment. This is the way to overcome it. So it was hard at first, especially at first, because I didn't want to do these things. I felt pretty awful. And even doing them made me kind of feel worse at first. It was just like, what the hell is this? It's just like, now I feel depressed because I can't feel the positive emotions doing what I was doing. But I kept going with it. And, a month or two into it, I started seeing glimmers, because here's what happened. I stopped focusing so much on how bad I felt. And then when I was able to accomplish these goals and these tasks, despite how I felt, my body started to reward me with better feelings. And especially it came with when I was doing things that I enjoyed doing, things like skateboarding, things like going and I was exploring this with like racing my car in autocross, which was crazy. I was doing it when I was feeling so bad. And at first it was like I felt like crap, but afterwards I would get these like, man, I would get these like feelings of joy, of peace again in my body, of feeling of like accomplished. And this drummed up positive feelings and pulled me out of this hole of anhedonia. And I kept going with it little by little over months. And within a few months or so, it was completely gone. It was completely gone. And I combine this with, a lot of what I talk about on this channel, like, um, nervous system type practices, getting out in nature, going on walks, practicing meditation and visualization and breathing practices and, getting into my body, things like that, movement practices. And it completely went away. The joy returned, the happiness returned. I started feeling more like myself and I started feeling more positive and happy in my body. The anhedonia resolved. And I credit this technique to what helped me heal. And this is what I now teach people. This is what I now teach people more than anything. So if you're struggling with this and you've tried all of the things, the supplements, the antidepressants, all of that stuff, and you're just kind of like laying around bed rotting, waiting to feel better, I'm sorry to say that that's not going to work. That didn't work for me. I've never seen that work for other people. Try this practice. One of my favorite books on this that has helped me is called The Happiness Trap. It has methods within it around like brain retraining, nervous system work, somatic practices, but it's all done through the lens of acceptance and commitment therapy. And it will help you if you are struggling with these feelings, this numbness, this feeling of anhedonia. I'll put the link in my bio. You can also read my book. It's called "It's All in My Head," and hear my story on that. I'll put the link in that in the bio here, in the caption here. Let me know if guys have any questions. I talk a ton about this. There's a lot of nuances about it, about how to go about this. But I've worked with so many people too that have gone through this and have come out the other side using the same technique. People that were dealing with chronic illness, chronic Lyme, hundreds of symptoms, anhedonia, and eventually went and started this approach and got their lives back and healed again. So I've seen it not with just myself, but with so many other people that I've worked with. I hope this helps you guys. Let me know if you have any questions.